Justice League Red, issue 6, Saladin Ahmed writing with Clayton Henry on the art. Final issue of this book, although it does have the end question mark at the end, so that probably just means there's maybe a thread or two that they want to continue somewhere if they ever get to it, but no guarantees as always with these things. So yeah, we have this Crimson Cloud concept that was introduced last issue, and a lot of this issue is kind of about how they can kind of maybe get to Red Tornado, who they kind of realize is in the middle of the Crimson Cloud, and if they can maybe like jolt him into being awake or make him aware of what's happened here, he can like fight out from within, and that becomes like a big focus. So there's a lot of fighting, like red cubes and tentacles that are coming after them. There's also this idea that it knocks them all out and they all get like visions or dream sequences with someone they care about, to try and convince them that, like, you know, for example, Baz sees his cousin breaking into a car and it's like, hey, this is how you failed him, you turned him into this and it led to his death, kind of thing. So, you know, they do this kind of thing. That's a few pages. You know, Power Girl is like, oh, you should be ashamed, you'll never be as good as Superman, you know, yada yada yada. Ultimately, though, the biggest character here for this issue is Red Canary, who we get a bit of her backstory, this idea that she was scared, and because of that, she sort of made herself into a hero, and her energy that she's got now, the red that she's able to sort of fire out, ends up being kind of the key, where she's able to like fight out of this dream when no one else is, and she works with Deadman and Cyborg, and ultimately the plan boils down to like her just firing off as much of her energy as she can handle straight into Red Tornado in the middle of the Crimson Cloud, which you know, like, and by the end of it, it seems like her powers are all gone. Whatever power she got or had have all depleted because she's done this, but it's brought Red Tornado back, and he's all like, oh, I'm so sorry, and to make sure this never happens again, because no one will ever trust me, I'm just going to deactivate so that there's no threat. And then some of them are like, wait a minute, that's basically killing yourself. No, you stay alive and you spend your time fixing what you've done and making it count. So, yeah. So, I think there's stuff to like here. It's also fairly straightforward. I think I liked the focus on Red Canary because she is the newer character, and you know, we've got this thing. She thinks she's basically done being a superhero at the end of this, but the final page is Power Girl showing up and saying, "Hey, yeah, we're not done like working with you. We're just getting started. Here, let's go." So, you know, maybe they've got some sort of plan mapped out for this Red Canary stuff, or if not, maybe even a Justice League Red thing. But this is the end of this particular series. But, you know, I fired through the plot quite quickly. I didn't really have a whole ton to say about the actual fighting per se. There's a whole thing where they only take Cyborg with them, but then Power Girl and Baz just kind of show up to help save the day a little bit later.
After the secret base that they were at explodes, and luckily the two that can survive in space, right? But no, there was a lot that I do like that Saladin Ahmed had done here with Red Tornado, because when they made the decision, I guess I would have Mark Waid, to have the Red Tornado be kind of like the AI of the Watchtower, I was like, yeah, but that kind of undoes all the cool stuff we've done with Red Tornado the last 20 years about how he's this android that wants to be human. So the fact that that ends up being the crux of the series is like that desire for him to feel humanity and preserve life and do that despite being an android is kind of what leads Red Cloud into existence and all this other stuff. I like that pays off here. Whereas like Red Cloud kind of takes this Skynet role of we can do it better. And, you know, I'm going to take it out of your hands. And, you know, so it always makes me go back at those early issues and be like, oh, okay, so like, did they disable that big harvester machine so Red Cloud couldn't get his hands on it? Right? Because imagine what Red Cloud could have done with that, because we see all of the technology that's been incorporated, right? Like cyborgs and whatnot. So there's there, and then this whole concept of the red with Red Canary, where she can tap into that's that life force, right? It's the red that we associate with Animal Man. and that's the force of life, right? That's what binds all the people. And that's the energy that goes into Red Tornado here at the end and kind of gives him his
because it's built to absorb everything else, because they were designing this tech that he's using to like defend the Watchtower against other Kryptonians, any Green Lantern rings, stuff like that. So Red Canary's red power is the only thing that actually like makes a dent into the Crimson Cloud, which is, you know, makes enough sense, I guess.
Yeah.
I had a slight like sort of like technical nitpick of like, she's firing out the red energy, but she's also inside a Green Lantern construct so she can breathe because she's in space. And I'm like, how's that working exactly? Is there like a hole forming just for the red energy to come out, but she's still protected from the vacuum of space? I don't know. It's a really nitpicky thing to care about, but it's just in the moment I thought about it and went, yeah, wait, how's she still breathing? I don't know. But minor quibble. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I do like the sense of camaraderie here at the end where they're all standing around her hospital bed, and you know, still weird the dead man's there. There's still some question, you know, of putting this team together, right, just for the 6th issue limited series or whatever. But it does make for a fun visual of him there with the other ones. But yeah, this was a nice light read over the 6 issues, and I like kind of ponders what, you know, artificial intelligence and all this, where it lands with superheroes. And it made for a compelling Red Tornado story, which is kind of what I wanted it to do when I had heard the solicits.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to have any like huge kind of lasting impact. I'll probably forget a lot of it in the future. I think the best case scenario is that it's kind of like an interesting little book that we'll go back to as a recommendation when people want to go back and follow like Red Canary's story. It'll be kind of like if she actually does become in any way important down the line or gets a cool run or something, if she gets big enough for that, it'll be like, hey, the lead into everything with her started with this little mini series, and that'll be kind of its legacy potentially. If we do get a follow up, it's entirely possible this didn't sell that well and we never get a follow up that's kind of teased at the end. So, you know, but as it is, very pleasant. You know, but I think it maybe felt a bit simple compared to what it felt like they were setting up early on. Like, not that it's poorly paced or anything, but just all the stuff it was teasing with this potential future and all that, it feels like it ended up being a lot more simple with this Crimson Cloud stuff than perhaps it felt like it was going to be early on. So again, maybe that's like an expectations thing in the writing, that maybe it could have been maybe ironed out a little bit or whatnot. But it's almost like, it's the biggest, most baddest thing we're ever going to stop because it's going to lead to the apocalypse taking over Earth. But then it's ultimately just them fighting like a big red cloud in the last issue.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. So no, perfectly pleasant, and Henry's art's pretty consistent with what it's been, which is to say it's not great, but it's fine. It does the job.
Yeah, it does the job, and it's very funny that you can't give a massive forehead to a gigantic cloud. So, you know, they played within the strengths.
Or is it all forehead?
Maybe, I don't know. At that point, it's like a 16 head if it's all forehead, right?
Okay. All right. What are you giving Justice League Red, Matt?
I'm gonna give it the straight 7.
Yeah, it's kind of in that. I think I liked it less than Green Lantern, so I think I'm going to go 6.5. I am going to just nudge it down a touch, but it's kind of in that range. Very, very reasonable enough, inoffensive. It maybe wasn't quite as interesting as I thought it was going to be based on the first couple of issues. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if any of it has any kind of knock-on effect to anything. Even if it's simple as Red Canary showing up in another book and like, hey, this was kind of her first, not her first chapter. We've seen her before, but like, this is the first focus, certainly.
Well, this is the most, and because I read those Green Arrow issues, and this is the most compelling she's been. So I will gladly call this as her you know, big coming out party as a character, because she was just kind of there in Green Arrow.